Well, that happened at a club, oddly enough. I went there with a friend of mine who happened to be a friend of his.
Yep. We were in Erlangen by Nuremberg, and I saw one of my friends, and look who's here. It was I saw one of my friends on the stage, and I'm like, oh my god, look, there's our zoo. And then there came Thomas one night.
Yeah, I kind of fell into his lap.
But
it was worse than that. But that's beside the point.
Going on 12 years, we're helping raise, well, we first helped raise one niece. Now there's two nieces. The first one was born 8 years ago, and the second is 3 months old.
And where are all of you living?
In Germany. Sees us is to where Thomas is recognized as a complete legal spouse. Thomas has all health benefits of Germans, which he's enjoying right now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no matter what happens, Thomas is going to be my husband, and whatever goes wrong, if anything happens to him, if anything were to happen to me, both of us would be taken care of. Absolutely nothing. If anything ever happened to Thomas, there's nothing I could do. I probably wouldn't even be able to visit him in an emergency room because I'm not immediate family.
Our marriage in the U.S. wouldn't be legal. If there was anything wrong with me, he wouldn't be there. If I was laid out in the emergency room, he wouldn't be allowed in there because he's not technically immediate family. He might be considered a spouse over here, but in the States, he's just another person.
Just like with this whole DOD DECA thing. The entire time they're giving out the story about, well, there are other women or mothers that don't want to go to the States because their children were born here and they don't want to go. Thomas explained to them time and time again, it's not about wanting, it's about he can't.
DOD hides behind what they claim to be similarities. If there are legal similarities, then why aren't we benefiting them? If our marriage was similar to the U.S., we'd be able to go there together. We wouldn't be denied immigration if there were similar situations between us and a regular heterosexual couple. My yearly salary, I believe, is $35,000 a year.
In mine, I'd have to lie. I think it's like my yearly salary should be somewhere around 15,000 euros, which would be equivalent to maybe $22,000 a year.
By U.S. law, we're allowed to work in a stress-free environment, free of work hostilities. But this past year has been just the opposite.
This past year has been hell, and ever since this whole DECA situation popped up about Thomas and his going to the States and can't, and then gets his orders, and the orders getting pulled back, and then firing him for not taking the orders, which he was given, but he did anyway. Meanwhile, Thomas is unemployed, and we're having to live off of my 22,000 euros a year. I'm the one working for both of us now just because we're not going to go to the States and be treated like nothing for nothing. Well, right now, first of all, we depend on my salary, what I'm getting right now, and then comes my sister with her two kids, which was fine before. When Thomas made a little bit of money, we were able to give her whatever she needed. Now she's about ready to move in a month, and she called me and she asked me if I had 1,000 euros to give her for first month's rent and for her deposit, and I simply had to tell her I'm sorry, I can't do it right now. Before maybe, but right now we have to see how we survive, which sucked. I've got 5 other siblings. My one brother graduated. I've got another brother coming up to graduate.
that wants me to come back to the States. Don't think I'll be able to afford that. I have 3 little sisters. They're at the age where they want birthday presents still. Can't afford to do that. If it wasn't for the fact that we have a flat rate on our phone, I wouldn't even be able to call them because I couldn't afford to pay the long distance bill.
And the fact that I'm a tight one, we have a little bit of money to get over through the months with right now. He told me I'm so tight I could make a nickel squeak for years.
Who knew it would pay off?
Now it's paying off because we have none.
Well, I found the complaint process doesn't really work because either you're not they don't give you the proper information in which complaints you're supposed to file where. So you end up spending 2 years wrapped up in a complaint that shouldn't have happened in the first place. Speaking EEO, I was told to file it with EEO. Thought it would be an equal employment opportunity problem. It wasn't. Turned out to be something I would go to the Office of Special Counsel with. Up until recently, I didn't even know that existed. Then you have workman's comp. What clearly is defined by a doctor to be work illness from the occupational industry is still being debated upon. Well, because I wasn't able to find any possible solution to my problem, the day I signed to agree to the orders, I just went to a really bad spot. I was depressed, suicidal, which isn't like me. I try not to be depressed and suicidal. Gets you nowhere. I went to a doctor, a German doctor, was still written out sick by the German psychiatrist, not able to go anywhere. Been on every type of possible mood elevator out there, every possible sleep medication out there, because when normal people are sleeping, I'm stuck pacing up night worrying about what's going to happen.
The doctor actually written statements that this whole situation with Thomas would end if this whole work situation would come to an end, or if they would come to some kind of an agreement and the stress would stop from work, then Thomas would be able to work again. That's actually what the statement says from the doctor. Well, I think I speak for both of us. This kind of harassment feels like this. Every day when you go to work, right before you have to go, you're sick to your stomach. You feel ill. You want to call in. You want to throw up. And yet, because right now I have to, every time I park at that parking lot, before I walk into that door, I'm like, oh my God, I start shaking. I get this queasy feeling in my stomach, and I'm like, what did I do wrong now? Like, what happened now? And every day there's something else, which makes it unbearable for me to go to work.
And I think the closest thing that I can relate would be segregation. But this time it's not based on the color of my skin, it's my sexual orientation preference.
Nothing is done because no one will say anything, and it doesn't matter what law is passed. If no one says anything, nothing's going to happen. Nothing. It's going to continue the way it is.
It'll give people the courage to actually speak out to change things.
And the gay ones are always going to shut up because they're going to be afraid forever that something's going to happen just because they find out that they're gay or bisexual or whatever.
If being gay discriminated was covered underneath EEO, it'd be a lot easier. I wouldn't be constantly checking my email waiting for 4 different government organizations to get back to me over one complaint. I wouldn't have to worry about one complaint saying, oh, we can't handle it because it's underneath someone else. No, it would be one organization that had the ability to actually make the decision and not having to wait for them to make the decision so I can go ahead and appeal to the other organization.
So basically you're saying it would be one organization to take care of your problem.
Right.
Which they're not going to, because the discrimination of sexual orientation, which we've recently found out after a long time, doesn't exist.
one letter that I got from the Office of Special Counsel said that they couldn't do anything because EEO was currently looking at the same case, but they said that I had plausible grounds underneath DOMA, that DOMA was the cause for all harm in this complaint. Meanwhile, they still weren't going to touch it because it was still underneath EEO. And then with DOMA there, it allowed the government to hide behind this phony law.
Getting day by day the strength we find from, well, first of all, for years I've been told I'm the one that can make a nickel squeak, so we have just barely enough money to scrape by for a little while.
I was there with some friends. I wasn't going there to look for anybody. And he happened to be talking, and I kind of fell into his lap. And we've been together ever since. We got married the 18th of March, 2011. Although I asked him to marry me 3 to 4 days after we met, or it might have been after leave. But I was the first one to ask. That's the important part. This just really started to happen after we got married, and we had a little ceremony. His family was there. Unfortunately, my family couldn't be there. Although I did have a couple of work friends there, some friends were there. The wedding, people posted pictures on Facebook, which at the point I didn't have a problem with it. I was extremely happy. I went off my leave early to go on to go to a store reset in Grafenwehr. When I got back, everything was okay on the lower side level of the store, 20 employees. On the 28th, though, is when things got a little bad. I was told by my manager that he wanted to talk to me. So to go up to his office before I started work. I didn't get all the way into the office, and I was told flat out I wouldn't be extended for another year of overseas tour. I shocked. I said okay and walked away. Later on, I had asked another manager why I wasn't extended, and he told me that he was told that a reason wasn't necessary to be given. I came to the military I came over into Germany with the military, as I said. I got out of the military in 2003 on a medical separation. So disabled vet. Started working with AFES, had no problems. And then I went to DOD DECA commissary agencies. And for the most part, I had no problems until right after I got married. And that's when all the problems started. My husband works for AFES in the building right next door to the commissary. He's a local national, German. I'm American, so we're a binational couple over here. We're both Department of Defense. AFES is DOD is NAF, I believe, I'm categorized under the AF system, affiliated funds. The thing with the affiliated funds, we fall underneath the 5-year rule, to where NAF employees really don't. The 5-year rule is set up to keep people rotating, but was originally started for high-ranking management that were lingering over here and overseas. Not really meant for people in lower-paying positions. I'm a GS4. I work as a store associate, which means I've been trained in all departments of the store. I'm full-time. I